Welcome to another episode of Expected Buffalo, the offering. I don't know why I struggled to get that out. I almost said full episode, but that is not yet. That's coming in a few days. So we'll get to that at the end. But here with a quick one on a Monday evening, almost a Tuesday. I'm off. I was up till, oh man, 1:30 last night. Getting lost in the depths of Tableau. It's fun for me to build out those charts. I was working the prospect one yesterday to do that and put that together. But really, I get really into the weeds with it, and then before you know, it's 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours of your night is gone as you try to perfect it and get something the way you want it. So yeah, 1:30 last night, 1:30 with a 6:30 wake up. So I'm a little bit tired. I'm kind of running on fumes, but here we are. We're still going. We're pushing through. Quick conversation today. A few things happened around the league. Well, actually, one thing happened. So we're gonna talk about the Patrik Laine trade. Put together an article about PTOs. We'll talk about that, and then we're gonna look ahead to the prospect ranking show on Wednesday. Give you some tips of where my head's at and some things you can look to see on that as well. So let's start with the Patrik Laine sweepstakes officially ending. He goes to the Montreal Canadiens along with the second round pick in exchange for a defenseman and full boat. By the way, it's important. Full boat of Laine's contract for the next 2 years, $8.75 million, goes to Montreal, no salary retention. So the reports were out of Columbus that Montreal was the only team that was willing to do that. Anybody else involved in the conversations was requiring Columbus to retain salary. So the Blue Jackets got out of that contract for the next 2 years, got out of that cap hit, and they get a player off their roster who didn't want to be there anymore. And he was looking in line. He was looking for a fresh start. So understandably, on both sides, trying to make that work. And I'm glad it did. A little bit of some concern that there would be he would stay in Columbus. And then, for a guy who was just in the player assistance program, you kind of hope that all works out and he gets an opportunity. And sure enough, he does now in Montreal. So that's really the last big one. I don't want to say big one, but realistic trade idea. Maybe if you were clinging hope to that, that could have happened for the Sabres, and it goes by the wayside. So, I mean, however you want to look at it, Brian Johnson, Henry Jokiharju, Matthias Samuelsson for Laine in a second, full cost. Would you have done that? It's hard for me because I go back and forth on it. For Jokiharju and Johnson, I might have gritted my teeth and did it. My issue is, and I want to say this because I don't. There's not. It's always brought up and it frustrates me is that there's in the 2020 summer 2025, so next summer, that there is a salary cap issue, and there's really not. There's no cap situation the Sabres have to worry about. I know they have guys coming up, Byram and Quinn, and some other ones. I can't think of McLeod's another one on top of my head that you have to hand out new contracts to. But they have, I think it was $30 million in cap space. I'm trying to look right now to do that. And then if you do all of that, and then you look at some of the things you can get off your contract, get off your books, and some guys that are, with 1 year remaining are going to be coming up, you can do it. There's really no concern, in my opinion, on next year. So looking at it right now, $28.5 million is projected on Puckpedia at an $88 million cap limit. That's obviously going to go up. So let's say it goes up to like 92. That puts the Sabres then up in the area of $32 million. So, to get McLeod, Quinn, Paterka is another one. That's an important one to remember. And then Byram and Levi too. Levi's going to be a backup. He's not going to break your bank. We don't know what Byram's going to do. Jack Quinn could be a bridge. Paterka might be your most expensive one. And McLeod, same thing. We don't know what that's going to be. I'm not expecting anything more than around $4 million. So when you add it all up, it's not significant. Saying all this to get back to line A is the $8.75 million next year, so 25-26 cap, uh, kind of is restrictive for me. Like I could deal with it if it was just this year, but adding another year on top of it makes it more difficult to swallow that. So you have to weigh the pros and cons, right? Is this a player that you believe can bounce back to the player he was um, over the last, maybe 2 years ago? Last year wasn't that great, but the year before that, he had a really good year in Columbus. And again, he's only 26 years old. People think because he's been around so long, maybe he's older. He's only 26, still in the prime of his career, but there's uncertainty there. Can he get back to the player after what he went through last year with not only the player assistance program but the injury? We'll see. We'll see what he can do in Montreal. And then there's the on ice impact, the defense. Does Lindy Ruff and his system want to deal with that? But if you're bringing him in to be an offensive forward, then you have a whole new bottom six that worry about defense, and you have some guys that could play up your lineup that aren't terrible defensively as well. So I think that's kind of an overrated thing in terms of the Sabres. You can make that fit work. I know Jeff Skinner was a whole thing that's people point to, but uh, this is a younger player that I think has game left still. So we'll see. We'll see what Montreal can do there. We'll see what Laine does. He's in the division now. Um, but yeah, I mean, this pretty much puts any last second hope on something that Sabres could do. I just Trevor Zegras thing isn't going to happen at this point. It seems Philadelphia seems pretty happy with the guys they have. I would anticipate any trade happening there. So unless something pops up out of nowhere, and either is another one that was talked about, that seemingly isn't happening with the price there. So this is your team. The only uncertainty is Peyton Krebs right now, and we talked about that last week. We'll see, what happens there if they can get that new contract worked out, and then where he's going to fit in the team moving forward. But this is your roster. I'm not going to go into what that means. We're going to have time to do that over the next 3 to 4 weeks here, going into training camp and throughout training camp in the preseason, to really understand and discuss and rip apart kind of what we have here as a roster moving in the next season. However, as I keep saying, this is your team. Well, maybe not so fast, my friend. Maybe it's not your team. So this is the time of the year where we start to see players sign PTO, player professional tryout contracts before training camp. Free agents who look to get on with the team that don't have a contract yet. I wrote an article today for expectedbuffalo.com you can read. Called out 2 guys that I think would be options for the Sabres, and forward Kailer Yamamoto and goaltender Kevin Lankinen. Lankinen I'm not really going to get into that much. It's more of a bring in for a camp body, see if he's better than Reimer, maybe better than Sandstrom, and he's had some good numbers in Nashville. Take a flyer, maybe not. I don't know. You probably really don't need to do that, and so I would maybe push that one to the side. Yamamoto is the interesting one to me. So 25-year-old forward, still didn't have a contract, surprising. And I know the production really isn't there. I think it was 8 goals, 16 points in 59 games, if I'm remembering properly, with Seattle last year. They decided to non-qualify him as a restricted free agent, making him an unrestricted free agent this summer. And here he sits on August 19th, still without a contract and looking for somewhere to play next season. It's interesting because Yamamoto is too good of a player, especially at his age, to not be signed somewhere right now. So it's interesting to me. So before I wrote this article, I wanted to, make sure I was checking all my boxes, if you will, and let's see if the numbers really match what I watched when you watch a couple of shifts. So I watched about, nothing crazy, but 3 to 4 games worth of shifts for him, and came away thinking the same thing. He's not a top 6 player like he played Edmonton when he scored 20 goals and 40 points that one season. That's not who he is anymore. He's a bottom 6 forward. I think that can help your team. But the thing I come back to is I really think it's the height. The 5'8" I think is what's holding him back. And then he has concussion stuff on top of that. So understandably, you combine the two. there might be some hesitation there. But my thing is like he's not a 5'8" player when he plays when you watch him. He's not afraid to go into the corners. He's not afraid to dig for pucks. He wins battles. He's an effective forechecker. He's defective. He's effective disrupting the defense, getting the puck back in the offensive zone. He goes to the net. He goes to those areas, so that's not an issue. It reminds me a little bit of kind of a Zach Benson thing, right? That surely there's an undersized player there, and at times it does show up, but I don't think he's your prototypical 5'8" guy playing the perimeter, stuff like that. I don't think that's his game from what I watched with him previously in Edmonton and then what I saw last year in Seattle. So I don't know. Maybe then I get back to the production isn't great, and I don't know, but like there's been a handful of guys who don't have great production but still found somewhere to play next season or at least get a contract of some sort. The underlying numbers on him are pretty decent, at least especially from a defensive aspect. And involving hockey's model and hockey business model, you're going to see some good defensive numbers there from him. And really, if he was to come here to Buffalo, that's what you would want. You'd want a bottom six guy that's responsible defensively. He can add some secondary scoring here and there, but he's not going to drive offense. He's not going to be an offensive force. And I get the Sabres signed what, four of those guys essentially this summer. So why need a new one? And for me, it plain and simple it just comes down to depth. This is a team with playoff aspirations, and you could do a lot worse than Kailer Yamamoto as your 13th or 14th forward. I think he's better than Lucas Rusek. He's better than Isaac Rosine at this point if he was going to be one of your extra forwards. And then even if you look at your roster, is he better than Jordan Greenway? I don't know. Your underlying numbers say maybe, especially over the last 3 years. There's better offensive numbers ish. Yamamoto's defensive numbers look a little bit better. There's a massive size differential there. They've taken into account a 6'3" Greenway and a 5'8" Kailer Yamamoto. So that's something that definitely goes in Greenway's direction. Yamamoto is a better skater, and we know the Sabres are looking for that this year with what the moves that they made. And then it's Peyton Krebs. Is he better than Peyton Krebs right now? I don't know. We haven't seen Krebs hit that point. So it gets back to what do you have to lose to bring a guy in to let him compete for a spot, and if he makes your team, then you have strong depth and the guy who can rotate in and out. And if there's injuries, which there are going to be, he could step in and he can be effective. We're not looking at Lucas Rusek, who I'm sorry, just is not an NHL player. And we've seen it the last 2 years, and he's just not. If you're someone who doesn't want to rely on one of the rookies or you want them to get more time in Rochester instead of sitting in the press box, then again, Yamamoto being here eliminates that. So I don't know. He'll probably go somewhere that he has a better opportunity to make a roster, maybe a better team. And the Sabres traditionally are not a team that gets into PTOs. And again, I think this is an organization that has shown time and again that they're more interested in having their younger guys fight for roster spots. So that's probably what they'll do. And circles back full circle to this is probably your roster going into training camp. What they have right now, get Peyton Krebs done, and then go from there in the season and see what you have. Final transition. Speaking of prospect conversation, big day on Wednesday. Wednesday night, 9 o'clock, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. We have our annual prospects under 24 expected Buffalo consensus ranking. So it'll be myself, Anthony, Eddie, Austin, all four of us together. We go through basically what we have set right now is based on our responses and based on some fan input, we have a list set. And then we'll start from the how we did with the bottom or the top, whatever it is, whatever worked out. I think it makes more sense to go from the bottom. I'll probably start from the bottom, work our way up, move things around where we feel as we get there based on the list that's already set up for us. have some debate, have some conversations about prospects, and good times by all will be had. So definitely look for that on Wednesday. Again, it'll be live, so you can watch this whole conversation go down Wednesday night. Um, I don't really have a lot of controversial things to bring. Um, maybe the most interesting thing that I will be pushing for is Anton Wahlberg. He was second on my board when I put it together. So it's probably going to be Levi Kulik 1-2. But I'm gonna try to argue to get Wahlberg in that 3 spot. I don't think I'm getting him to 2 with that group, but I think I can maybe get him to 3. But we'll see. I mean, that's the kind of the guy I'm gonna push for. I don't think I had anybody else that was really rated higher than the rest of the group. I don't want to spoil and give too much away because we'll wait to do that when we have everybody together, and then we all go through all of our uh, debates and rankings, and then at the end we'll put out what everybody ended up as. Um, so you can see the differences that we had in the whole in our conversation and put some context to it. But looking at it right now, without giving it away, we're pretty even on a lot. Um, maybe I Komarov a little bit lower than some people. Maybe Zemmer a little bit higher. Um, Viliami Mariala, that's my guy. I have him in here. He's only one other person I believe had him in here. I don't think he's getting a contract, but I love that Finnish guy. So he's my guy whenever we do these. I push for him and try to get him on there. I had Adam Kleber really high. I had him in the top 10. I think that might be the highest ranking out of anybody. It looks like it is. So yeah, so I had a couple guys that are up there, and we'll see where we shake out. It's a fun conversation. Prospect Challenge is only a few weeks away. A lot of these guys, well, I shouldn't say a lot of these guys. It'll be interesting what they do, but most of these guys, some of these guys, is probably the correct way to say it. Some of these guys will participate in that, and maybe more than in the past because I think some of these, a lot of these guys are going to be here. Uh, I don't know if Kulik and Roseanne will be in it. I feel like maybe the Sabres learned their lesson last year and putting Savoy in it, and he got hurt. But I would say probably Oslin, Nuchev, Novikov, Komarov. You'll see those guys be a part of it. I'm trying to think if there's anybody significant. Wahlberg, perhaps, Hellenius, all those guys. I could see definitely being a part of it. But we'll see. I think last year was really there wasn't many prospects. There was a lot of invites to put the full roster together, and that could be the same case again this year. So yeah, look for that. I'm excited for it on Wednesday. It'll be fun. And then we'll just keep the wheels going here. Again, I keep saying it. It's crazy how fast it is. August 19th. I think it's the 21st, I want to say. So we're almost exactly a month out from the first Sabres preseason game. We could be roughly a month out from the first preseason practice. We don't know officially yet, but yeah, it's coming quick. We're crossing the days off of summer pretty quickly here as we trudge towards Labor Day. The kids go back to school, at least here in New York State, and we're on our way. Football, then hockey, and then we're in it. We're in the thick of things again in a big year. Playoffs or bust. No excuses beyond that. And it's going to be fun. And like I said, I put out on Twitter yesterday, we have a lot of cool stuff coming. Made some new investments this year. You're going to see a lot of it. Some of it might maybe seem annoying, but please don't be annoyed by it. We're just trying to grow things, explore new avenues, get content to you easier too. That's one of the things we're trying to do, and get some new things. Something that will maybe differentiate us some more, or kind of shake things up than the usual stuff you're getting for us. Now, like the bread and butter is always good, and the bread and butter is always what's going to sell. But adding in a few wrinkles into the recipe definitely isn't a bad thing. So thanks for listening. I will talk to you guys on Wednesday. Everybody have a good night, and we will talk soon. See ya.